Hey, so I just finished breaking down 200 AI automation agencies from my community of 1,400 Maker School to figure out exactly what is working today in the AI automation agency space, exactly how people are hitting $10,000 a month and beyond with this business model. And what I'm basically doing in this video is just breaking it all down for you and giving you guys a bunch of strategies, okay? So I don't know what this dude's name is. It's a handsome fella. I see him all the time, but hopefully this is going to be you at the end of this video, printing money, not for the US government this time. The disclaimer here is this is what works in 2025. So if you're watching this video in 2027 or 2029, who knows? The internet may last until the end of time. Just know that, approaches in any market tend to work really well initially, and then they just tend to reduce effectiveness over time. So just my due diligence here. And if you're watching this really far in the future, I'm not saying that this approach is still going to work. What I'm saying is that they're working right now. And I want you to focus less on the particulars of the approach that I'm showing you, and then more on just the deeper underlying, the underlying theme or the underlying strategy, as opposed to the tactics. Because, tactics change, strategy remains the same. Speaking of strategy, the very first thing I'm going to touch on is what I'm calling asset-based cold outreach. So basically, probably a third of the people that are printing money right now in an automation agency are doing some sort of asset-based cold outreach. And what this means, just in layman's terms, this is you, right? And you are sad. And this is your prospect. And the prospect is really busy. And who knows, maybe they're a little bit angry. And anyway, in order to get their attention, what you need to do is you need to give them something, right? In order for them to want to actually spend a second and chat with you, you need to give them something. So what asset-based cold outreach is, you basically go and you create an asset and you actually just give it to them. And in exchange for that, okay, what they do is they just give you, it's supposed to be my rendition of a clock, a few moments of their time where you can essentially make your pitch, okay? Then after that happens, you are happy, and then their weird face is also happy. That's what a happy person looks like. So there are a couple of different ways to do this, but I want you to know that this is working really well right now. And the reason why is because the bar for value just continues to go up in cold outreach. What people were doing before is what I like to call personalized but boring. What we would do is we would take data using some lead aggregator. The simplest and easiest one was Apollo, okay? And for those of you guys that don't know, Apollo is just like this big lead database that allows you to list a bunch of people, first name, last name, title, company, LinkedIn profile, email address, and stuff. And then, for a fee, you could essentially extract that and then get that in a big CSV file or something, and then, add that to your cold email campaign. The thing about Apollo is it was really expensive, right? So because it was really expensive, people basically found a bunch of third-party workarounds. And one of the ways that people got Apollo data without actually paying for it all was this platform called Appify. Now, Appify is just a big scraping marketplace, allows you to scrape whatever the hell you want, including Twitter posts, Facebook posts, Instagram posts, whatnot. And essentially what people did is they took Appify, then used that to scrape a bunch of Apollo leads, and then just get that CSV that I was telling you about, except instead of a ton of money, just be a little bit of money, okay? And what do you get at the end of this step? You basically just get a spreadsheet. And, in the spreadsheet, you have like the name, you have like the URL of their LinkedIn profile, you have, hopefully their email and a bunch of stuff, okay? The thing is, this approach did not yield enough data to really do meaningful personalized outreach with. So what people would do after that is they would pass it through some sort of third-party API, okay, like Lead Magic or, Derek.app or Derek-app. Or something. And basically, these are just like approaches where if you feed in a LinkedIn profile, this URL that I was telling you about, to this service, Lead Magic or Derek-app, you could basically turn that, big CSV into an even more detailed file that also included a bunch of additional information, like what the person wrote in their LinkedIn summary, what the person wrote in their bio. Maybe you could scrape posts and stuff like that. And, once you have all this data, finally, you would take all of this stuff here, okay, all of this, then you would feed it into a cold email platform. And there are a variety of cold email platforms. Big one is Instantly right now. There's another one called Smart Lead, which I'll jump to. And basically these cold email platforms, I appear to have jumped on the pricing page. These cold email platforms just take all of that data and then allow you to like send emails en masse to these people, okay? So look at that happy camper over here. He's happy because he got a personalized email. Same thing with, Smart Lead and a bunch of these other cold email platforms. All right, so that was the previous approach. And I'm just telling you guys all this because I want everybody to be on the same page in terms of context. That was the exact thing that people were doing under the hood, right? This is like the secret strategy. And you can still produce results with this. You can still make money with this, but you can't make as much money as if you use this approach here, which a lot more people are doing now. And that approach is basically where instead of you just personalizing a piece of outreach and, sending out an email saying like, hey, Peter, I saw that you're running this company and I love that it's like I don't know, like a B2B manufacturing business and I only work with B2B manufacturing business. Instead of just telling people that, oh my God, this email's so customized, what you do is you actually show them by giving them something that solves a problem. Now, normally this would take a ton of time, effort, and work, but now in the age of AI and abundance, you can generate stuff that's valuable in half a second, assuming you have access to the right data. So let me just break this down for you. Just like we had before, we had this Apollo, okay? So we had the lead source, and then we usually have some way to scrape that. So Apify in this case, so instead of it costing $3 signs, it only costs $1 sign. But now we have a bunch of additional steps in between. And what I like to do with these steps, I like to call them my enrichment steps. So we'll get all of the data from Apify, which includes a CSV with like the website of the person and the LinkedIn profile, whatever. And then what we do is we actually send that through like a flow using a no-code tool, something like make.com, for instance, or something like N8N. Okay, and these tools essentially allow you to just drag and drop and do some automation for those of you guys that are just entering the industry. And holy crap, did N8N just change their website? Yes, they did. That's the sexiest thing I've ever seen. And then what you do with this is you basically create flows that scrape the person's website and give you a ton of information about their website and their offerings and stuff. So you go on every page of their website and scrape them. Scrape their social media. So you check out their Instagram, their Twitter, their LinkedIn, everything. And then scrape, I don't know, maybe they have a podcast. So you scrape their podcast. You scrape all the content that's basically about them on the internet. You can do this with a Perplexity search or there are a variety of different ways. But basically what you do as a result of this is now, in that spreadsheet that I showed you guys earlier, well, now you have a ton more data. You have name, you have, I don't know, like last post 1, post 2, post 3, and so on and so on and so on and so forth. You have all the podcasts. You have everything that you could possibly need. So now, once you have all this data in a spreadsheet somewhere, what do? Well, now you just feed it into AI. And you ask AI, hey, and this really depends on your pitch and depends on your market, and depends on what you're going after. But you could do something like, hey, I want you to create 22 titles for YouTube videos for this person, based off of all of the information on their website and based off of what is currently working right now. And AI can then add that to something like a Google document or maybe some sort of text file, or maybe upload it to a Notion page or something. And then when you do the outreach, you do the same customized outreach you did before, but now you also do it with that gift that I was telling you guys about earlier, okay? And that is definitely not how you draw a present, but that's just, we're going to use our imagination here, folks. So now what you do is you hand it to them on a silver platter and you say, hey, here's a bunch of free stuff. You like this free stuff? You want more? Well, reply and then I'll figure it all out for you. And that's how you get somebody interested in your offer. Okay. So this isn't hypothetical. Like, I've gotten a ton of this stuff. A lot of other people, probably a bunch of people that are watching this video have gotten a ton of stuff. Here's a quick example of one of these things from a guy that I actually ended up working with just because I was so blown away by it. He sent me an email and he basically said, hey, Nick, I've written 22 titles for you that you can use right now to improve your CTR. Let me know what you think. Rock. P.S. I've got a full YouTube script ready for you, Nick. It's complimentary to #1 rule for AI automations. Reply to my email and I'll send it to you. And then what did he do? He literally, I don't know if he used AI automation for this or he wrote it himself. I have no idea. But then he basically just spammed me with 20 whatever titles, 22 it looks like. And think about it from my perspective as a YouTube creator. Like, this stuff's actually pretty valuable to me. One of the main bottlenecks in my business is the creation of titles. He just literally just, whether he did it himself or he had AI do it, he just solved a problem for me. And he solved the problem for me before he even asked me for anything. And then the email, he basically just said, hey, Nick, here is 22 titles for you. I'm not asking for anything, but if you like them, let me know and maybe I'll make you some more, okay? And what was my impression? My impression was, damn, this guy knows how to freaking do business. Okay, absolutely. I responded to him and we did, we did a pretty quick deal. So there are a few dozen people in my community right now that are doing this exact approach. They're not doing YouTube titles because obviously they're AI automation agencies that are specializing in slightly different things, but they might do like a one-click CRM build. They might do some sort of cold email template series or sequence that's customized. They might do a whole newsletter for a business that they generate in 1 second. The point isn't necessarily that that asset needs to be incredible, okay? The point is that it needs to be so hyper-customized that the person on the other end of the line gets the impression that you sat down, literally physically sat down for 2 hours, researched everything about them, then created it and handed it to them before you even asked for a second of their time. Because that is just the best impression that you can give in cold outreach. Like we're as technology and as this industry gets more mature and more sophisticated, basically the bar for what is considered good quality outreach is going to continue to go up. And that is so far ahead of what everybody else is doing that is virtually like an instant win, I would say. So that's a strategy that's working right now. I have systems all over my YouTube that show how to build stuff just like this. I have systems that show you guys how to generate assets, PDFs using AI and some sort of data source. I have tons of videos on how to use Apollo and Apify to scrape data, get stuff from social media, scrape people's websites, and so on and so forth. I'm just going to leave a little link up ahead if you guys want to watch the first one in my big series. And yeah, take it from there, do whatever you have to do, make it work. Okay, the second really big strategy that's working right now, and this has been working for a couple of years, but I'm seeing this applied to AI automation, specifically because, we're a very technical audience and people tend to get lost in the product. But basically, it's sales before product, okay? Little Amazon smiley. Before you build an automation or a system or a template or your product, try selling it. And then only when somebody responds positively to you, only when somebody's actually down to maybe buy the thing, or maybe not buy the thing, but like explore a little bit more about the thing, only then do you actually sit down and build it. Now, I know this probably sounds crazy, and a lot of people are like, Nick, that's just bonkers. Why would you sell something that you don't even have? How can you be sure that that quality product is good? And the reality is, right now, okay, as of the time of this video, that doesn't matter. And if you try and do everything right and 100% by the book, you're just not going to make it. The industry is moving too quickly. So this is what a lot of people, a lot of AI automation people being, technical, and, like more from like a programming or developer background, this is more or less what everybody's doing. So they'll do some market research. I see this all the time in my community. They'll spend like, 2 or 3 days compiling a bunch of stuff. They'll like read through communities of like a particular niche. Videography is my go-to. So they'll go videography communities. Then they'll like look for a bunch of communities here, and then they'll scroll top to bottom and they'll look for pain points, and then they'll do a bunch of, total addressable market, whatever. They have some little report at the end of it. And they're like, okay, this is a good idea. I should probably do this. And then what they'll do is they'll be like, okay, so what are problems that they're facing? Okay, it's this problem. So I don't know, their video production pipelines suck. I'm going to develop a product. And so, after that, what do? Then they spend, a week or two building this thing. And then only after they're done building this thing, doing like back-breaking labor and spending, I don't know, like I've seen people spend like 3-4 weeks building like a simple set of make.com templates or something. It's pretty crazy. And then they'll try and sell it. And then this try and sell it period, this might take another 3 or 4 weeks. And then they realize that it fails, okay? And then it takes them like another week to just muster up the courage to try again, and then they freaking go back. So this whole cycle is like 6 to 7 weeks. Man, if you go through 2 of these cycles, you could have built a whole lifestyle business in the meantime. You just wasted an entire like business cycle, a 0 to 10 or 20K, journey. It's crazy. And so don't do this. I don't really know how else to instill upon this point, but the age of Costco, is it with a C? A T? I think it's with a T. Costco's whole like build it and they will come methodology, where they put a bunch of warehouses in the middle of nowhere and their products are just so damn good that everybody comes. That doesn't work for this industry. That doesn't work for our current era of technology. That doesn't really work for startups, okay? What we need to do is we need to validate our product as quickly as humanly possible. So instead of build it and then they will come, I say sell it. And once they're here, then build it. Now, it doesn't sound as nice. It doesn't roll off the tongue, but we'll just say Nick Sarav 2025. Just FYI. Just quote me on this one. It doesn't sound as nice, but trust me when I say this is what everybody that wins does, okay? What does that actually look like in, like if we were just like examine a little flowchart here? You sell first, okay? You validate fast, and then finally you build after. So that 6 to 7 week pipeline before, well, you're still going to do your market research for maybe a couple days. Then you're going to come up with an idea, which might take you a couple days. Then you're going to try and sell it. Maybe you'll give yourself like a week to sell it. And then guess what? If it fails, how long is this loop now? This loop is now maybe like 9 to 10 days instead of 6 to 7 weeks. So you are 6 to 7 times faster. And concomitantly, if I could just show you guys kind of what the growth rate of a company that does this versus that other company looks like, I'd say it's about 6 to 7 times faster. If that green one is somebody that's doing this approach, this orange one is somebody that's doing like the traditional build and they will come approach, okay? And I mean, like, well, if you're at like 13 or 14 weeks and you're staring down the barrel of a freaking bottle or a gun or bottle or whatever the hell you want to stare down the barrel of, and you have very little runway left and you have no money, I mean, like that's a big gap. That might be like $100,000, right? That's a lot. Don't let yourself be that orange line, I guess. And then the benefit is, after you've succeeded, then you spend the hours building. So you're basically only spending time and energy on things that you have verified people actually want. And the second that you do this 2 or 3 times, well, you basically have like a list of templates or a list of products that you can legitimately sell, usually for months on end. I mean, these systems tend to solve core problems, and it's not that they're like these are core long lasting problems. These aren't like automation problems. You know what I mean? It's like lead generation. That's a core problem. You figure out that like a specific type of company wants a specific type of lead generation and they're willing to pay a lot of money for it. You could sell that thing for months or years. You could make a ton of money off of it. You could build your whole life around it. That's kind of how I feel with my initial cold email outreach system, proposal generator system, and then some of the CRMs that I was selling. I mean, I essentially built my business around these things. Okay. Big thing number 3 that I see winners do that I typically see losers kind of screw up. And I say losers here in a relative term. But, at the end of the day, business is a game. When you get into the AI and automation industry, you can kind of pretend you're playing a game of chess or something, right? The people that tend to fail at that game of chess just tend to get a little bit bogged down in the complexity of things like self-hosting. So what is the number 1 contender for, worst contributor to this problem right now? N8N. Okay, N8N, as we all know, is blown the hell up right now. I mean, they just had changed their beautiful website, looks super sexy, probably paid a designer a whole mansion in order to make it happen. N8N is awesome, and it's gaining a ton of market share really quickly. But what I find as somebody that has been in the space for the better part of the last couple of years, and that, who focuses primarily not on, how cool the systems that I can build look and all amazing AI agents with a quadrillion tools that look like a piece of spaghetti. I focus on the amount of money that you can drive from this stuff. People that start with N8N, they tend to be a little bit more technically oriented, and then they just tend to get bogged down in like the technicalities of self-hosting and stuff. And the issue with self-hosting is not that self-hosting itself sucks. It's just that it requires a fair amount of expertise to figure out. And then it adds like a ton of additional complexity to the process of actually building something for a client. So what self-hosting does, I find, is it gives you the illusion that you're making all this progress and that you're moving forward and you figured out how to do your environment variables or whatever, but you don't actually make money with it because you're not actually driving actionable business outcomes. So N8N is actually a really poor contender for this. I find, and I'm just telling you guys what I see in my community. I'm not trying to knock a platform here. I love N8N. I use it all the time. But if I could create a ratio between like the people that start with make.com versus the people that start with N8N and then how much money they make within maybe a month or two, the people that start with make.com, I got to take a survey, but my gut feeling is it's at least 2 to 3x than the people that start with N8N. Just because the people that start with N8N just get bogged down in the technicalities. Okay. So, I just picked a couple of platforms here to show you guys. Like, obviously, I've been a big make.com fan for quite a while. I built my whole, AI automation coaching business starting with make.com. So I can't recommend make.com enough. It costs a little bit more on the front end, but because it's totally cloud hosted, you don't have to deal with any of the implementation. You don't have to deal with any like the actual setting up or renting a server. You do pay substantially more on the front end than something like a self-hosted N8N setup. But typically what you're doing is you're paying, and then what you receive in return is a ton of your time and energy back and the ability to like very quickly get things like OAuth up and running. So I'm a big fan of that. I don't really know why I threw the Vappy logo in here. I guess I just like Vappy. Hello, Vappy. How you doing? Anyway, focus on cloud solutions wherever possible. If there's 2 options that you have, okay. The first is go through some lengthy thing to set up a server and, like put all this time and energy into making sure the server works right and get all the bells and whistles to make sure that like your process time costs as few operations as possible. If you're putting all that time and effort in, what you're basically doing is you're doing another version of building the product before you start selling. I would say if these products come out of the box and they work perfectly and all you have to do is pay like 30 or 40 or 50 bucks a month extra in order to have that product, well, take that product, sell it first, and then worry about all that hosting and all that super high efficiency stuff later on down the line. Okay, the last thing I'm going to talk about is what I'm calling omni-channel lead generation. I see a lot of people doing this, and I think the reason why this works is if we just zoom out a bit, if you use omni-channel lead gen in concert with asset-based cold outreach, you're basically maximizing the probability that somebody actually sees the asset that you've spent a little bit more time and energy making. Like if you think about it, this flow right over here, this might actually cost you something. Every time that you run this thing, you're going to have to spend a few cents scraping via Appify. Then you're going to have to spend a few cents on maybe the operations in your no-code tool or the large language model tokens to process all this stuff. Then you're going to have to spend some money for the cold email platform, right? So if you think about it, if we've just dumped all this money in, then logically speaking, and we made this amazing asset, and the probability of the person responding to us if they see the asset's really high. What's the bottleneck in our process? The bottleneck is them seeing the asset. So that's where omnichannel lead gen comes in. And it basically, the whole purpose of this is it maximizes the probability of people seeing our super high quality asset. Let me give you guys some context. Before, what a lot of people were doing is they were like just sending an email, okay? And in reality, emails or, I don't know, Upwork apps or, I don't know, posts on social media or whatever, these have a low probability of being seen. If you send somebody a cold email and you even have like some minor issue with maybe your deliverability or something, nowadays people get so many of these things and so many people mark things as spam and these email pixel things automatically open the contents of the email and they use it to like AI summarize like Google and Outlook does. They have such a low likelihood of actually seeing your asset that it's almost like, why the hell did you even make it to begin with? Like if you're spending, I don't know, even like 10 cents, okay, which is actually quite a bit of money if you think about it, per lead, then basically what you're doing is before the person has even seen it, you spend 10 cents, okay? In order for one person to see your outreach, you spent 50 cents. And then what's the probability that they're actually going to get back to you or something? I mean, man, that might be like $5. So what are you doing now? You're just spending $5 for somebody to say no to you, more or less. Then how many no's does it take to get a yes? I don't know, maybe 40? Maybe, 8? And then how many yeses does it take to actually like sign a deal and like get on a get on some sort of offer with you? I don't know. It could be like 10. So maybe you're spending $400 to acquire like a $1,000 client. Well, now you just spent, 40% of your margin. Anyway, I do this to show you guys my thoughts on how I think about acquiring business and cost per acquisition, which is extraordinarily important. And also to show you guys where that bottleneck is, okay? If you send a super customized piece of outreach to somebody and there's only a 20% chance that they see it, that means 80% of the time you're just throwing money away. What people are doing now is they're doing multiple channels. Now, if we were to say send an email that contains our asset, send an IGDM that contains our asset, send a LinkedIn request that contains our asset, and then also send an X message that contains our asset, mathematically speaking, the way that this works, and this is some statistical thing that I just had to ask ChatGPT about, there's a term, and one of you guys can tell me what it is. There's a 59% chance that they'll see it, okay? These aren't additive, but if you have a 20% chance of getting an email seen, 20% chance of getting an Instagram DM seen, 20% chance of getting a LinkedIn request seen, and then a 20% chance of getting an X message seen. Well, now you've basically tripled your odds. And so right off the front end, because you have this super valuable thing that'll basically guarantee you a conversation, if it just gets in front of them, you've tripled your odds of that happening. And you basically, this one strategy here will like 3x what is called your throughput, which are the number of leads that you can push through your pipeline. So, this is something that you can't do in isolation. This is sort of like a strategy or a hack to use in concert with some sort of approach. Like, as I was mentioning up here, asset-based cold outreach. But it's something that's working really, really well right now. And a couple of other ways that you can apply this and that I've seen people apply this are like Upwork apps. People will make a custom asset for the Upwork job posts that they are applying to. Like they will take the job description, they'll feed it through AI, and then now that it's fed through AI, they'll go and make a Google Doc with it. Then they'll go and they'll make like an actual systemmake.com blueprint with it using AI. You can do that, by the way. Then they'll attach all this stuff inside of the Google Doc, send it alongside their Upwork application along with a Loom video, right? But it's like, okay, we just spent like 50 cents doing that plus a few minutes of my time making that video. So how do I maximize the probability of that being seen? Well, you take all the client account information and then you find the person and then you apply not only on Upwork, but you send them an email, you hit them up on social media, do all that stuff. I should note that that is not allowed by the Upwork terms of service. I've just seen some AI automation agencies do it alongside other people, so you'd have to do that at your own risk. But yeah, that's a big strategy that I've seen working super well. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, these are strategies at the end of the day. I don't want you to pay attention to the very particulars of the tactics that I'm talking about, because these tactics are going to work realistically for a couple of months, and then they're not going to work as well. If you spend $1 and then right now you're making $10 on one of these, in 6 months, you'll spend $1 and you'll make $5, right? These things will just grow less effective with time as more people use them. But if you pay attention to the core fundamentals here, the things that drive all of these strategies, they tend to be things like personalization, giving people a ton of value upfront before you make any sort of ask, getting up and running, not waiting for perfect conditions before you start, operating with lower levels of certainty. Even if you don't know what you're selling or whether you can build the product, you go out there and sell it anyway. And these are more like core foundational themes that any positive, any fast-growing business owner usually has in their back pocket that have resulted in these tactics. So if you understand the deeper themes, you'll be able to recreate these tactics when the time comes and when you inevitably need new ones. All right, I think I'm done yapping for the day. Good to be back. If anybody has any questions about this stuff, just drop me down a comment below. More than happy to help out or answer. If you guys are into building your own AI and automation agencies from scratch, definitely check out Maker School. We got over 1,400 members in there right now. Really appreciate the time. Have a lovely rest of the day, and I'll catch you on the next video. Cheers.